Eddie on drums. In 2009, they self-produced their first two EPs entitled No Title and Soviet Soviet. So they really thought outside the box for these two EPs. One didn't get a name, and the other they just named after themselves.
They must have fought like cat and dog to decide on the names. Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Das Audiophiles. Yeah, my name is John. His name is Andy. At the tender age of 3, I was hooked to a machine just to keep my mouth from spouting junk. Ha! Must have took me for a fool when they chucked me out of school because the teacher knew I had the funk. More on that later, but first we have a song to listen to. Andy, what have you got that's touching cloth?
Yikes. I've got, I don't know if it's touching any cloth. It's a band called Soviet Soviet. Have you ever heard of a band called Soviet Soviet?
So good they named them twice. I do not think so.
Okay, fair. Not a big surprise there. The track by them that I have in store for you is called Ecstasy. So,
okay,
depending on what part of what is touching the cloth, it can be a bit of ecstasy. It can also be a bit of an emergency. But yeah, go off and give this a listen and come back. Let me know what you think.
Will do. It reminds me, dearie me, of a song that I hesitate to mention. I used to think Maybe You Love Me. Now I know for sure it's not that. Sorry. It does remind me of it though. Interesting beginning. Really nice post-punky guitar. I like it. That bass is really good. It's very hooky, as in Mr. Hook from Joy Division. There's a fair amount of Joy Division in this. It's cool. Vocalist, immediately my initial reaction was, but it's starting to. It has that it has a slight reverb on it and some other effects that has it that sort of almost Newman-esque quality where you dehumanize the voice a little bit. And the way he's singing, it kind of makes me think that perhaps they're not English speaking. I mean, Soviet would be a bit on the nose, wouldn't it? But it doesn't sound like English as a first language. It's just the way the words are. But this is a really interesting start. I do really like that bass. He's wandering around. He's got permission to meander, and he is doing so with great effect. Yeah, I like this.
Every day
I'm getting essence of Interpol as well here. I mean, we say the same, but I say the same bloody bands to certain sounds all the time. I know, I apologise, but that's what I'm getting. I did like that sort of reverby breakdown. Sounded kind of spacey a little bit. Maybe I'm being affected by the thumbnail, which is really interesting because you got sort of images almost like the cosmos, but you got bits of thumbprint on it as well. I could almost say that's like close up of the circulatory system or something. It is interesting. Perhaps like the spines of leaves. I don't know. Anyway, I'm just going to bring rambling. I'll just bring this back. It's such a short song. You don't mind. Yeah, I like that bit.
All systems intact on your side.
Oh, bass. Oh man, they were just getting going. That had a lot of interest to it, actually. I could quite easily dislike the vocals, but I did warm to them a bit. Um, they had ideas and they could have pushed that further, I think, another minute. It did really sound like they were just found something interesting there. Um, that was a nice ending, though, you know. In the words of a certain soul man, it is what it is. What it is what it is. Yeah, this is good stuff. I enjoyed it. Um, yeah, I got this feeling it's kind of not fully formed. It could have been a bit more, but no, it was good. It was good. Right, let's go back to Andy and find out more about Soviet.
All right. Welcome back, comrade. What did you think of this band Soviet and this track Ecstasy?
Yeah, it's an interesting name, isn't it? I remember I had a Soviet watch, which was like a cool brand back in the late 80s, early 90s, and it was a really cool watch. And I lost it in a mosh pit at Rock City when Silverfish were playing. I never even liked them. Gutted. But anyway, enough of that. So, first off, I listened to this, and I have to start with an apology. It's once again, it's not that often, but we have a reoccurring sort of item within our channel, which is inappropriate song moment. Um, so when the beat started on this song, and it's a nice beat, I was anticipating, I'm sorry, it's just what popped into my head, a burst of bright horns and the opening lines of Walking on Sunshine by Katrina and the Waves. It's really, and it wasn't that at all. Yeah, I apologize. But I think I've taken the first step in recognizing I have a problem. So there you go. Anyway, that aside, it is a really nice opening beat with nice higher action as well. And then we're joined by this really good post-punk guitar riff and a bass line that owes a lot to Mr. Peter Hook from Joy Division New Order. All good stuff, you know. Boxes are lined up, they're being ticked, ready for dispatch. So in comes the vocalist at the start of the first verse. I was thinking about this as just coming back to you, and I'm thinking there wasn't really a chorus in this, was there?
No, not
That I
really.
could think of. It was kind of going through. But anyway, I'll call it the first verse. And to be honest with you, my initial reaction was I wasn't quite sure about this vocal. the sound of it. There's a lot of reverb in this song. There's a lot of reverb on the guitar, and there's reverb on his vocals as well. And it has the effect on the guitar of sort of filling out, but on the vocals, it kind of dehumanizes the vocal in tone, a bit like sort of in a Gary Newman-esque sort of way. Now, there's obviously plenty of sort of Joy Division and Interpol in the band's influences, and also this horrible term, cold wave. I think that has its bony hand on the musical cradle of this band to a certain extent, which was like mostly European synth sound, but it has a same feel. It's these cold atmospherics that Martin Hannett would be very proud of, as in Unknown Pleasures. So it's that overall feel. So actually, as the song starts to progress, I'm warming to the vocals because the overall effect works for me in the context of the song. So, that
So
took about 25
you were warming
seconds.
to the cold wave sounds.
Exactly. Yeah. And I sensed actually from some of the very deliberate pronunciation that English might not be the singer's first language. There's not any sort of colloquialisms or even lazy phrasing. It's quite deliberate. So, very good singing, and very, you can't say it's not like cod English or anything, but it just sounded too correct to be a native English speaker. Could be wrong, but that's what my impression was.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm getting this feeling from this song that it has the impression of a digital echo of emotion. It's like one step back from being immediate to you. And actually it occurred to me straight after I finished the reaction that this is like an echo of, and the specific was Human Tetris, Things I Don't Need. Almost literally, with the reverb guitars and the vocals, it is like an echo. It's like you've launched the former song like a skipping stone across a lake of creativity, and these are the ripples coming back. And it has that rippling effect in it, and it's really nice, from that previous aforementioned song, which was a top 3 pick for me for 2023. The standout on that song was the drummer. Here, the drummer does a really good job as well, but he keeps it simple. There isn't so many fills and not so much variation in his drumming, but there's an unerring beats, and it's peppered with simple, tasteful fills and some double time on the metal work as well. I really liked it. However, for me, this song, I'm reluctant to say this, but the bass player is the star. He seemed to have carte blanche in certain sections of the song. So wherever he pleases, his bass line sort of wanders in and out of the vocal melody. And it helps out here, and then it helps out there. And sometimes he catches the vocal melody for a little bit and mimics it and then goes off. Really, really good stuff. Really, really enjoyed that. And it just stood out for me. About 2/3 of the way through the song, we have this breakdown with loads more reverb and everything, and it started to feel a bit spacey to me. And I stopped it at that point of the reaction, and that's where the thumbnail caught my attention, and it may be working its magic on me subliminally, but it was a really lovely image because it had elements of the cosmos, but there was also fake fingerprints on it, and then this red-orange burst to the left, which could either be the effects of solar wind or like a super close-up of somebody's circuitry system, either flora or fauna. It could be plants or it could be, mammal or whatever. That was just really interesting. It just made me think about this space. And again, it's a deliberate thing that, their sound, as it were. It's not, heart bleeding to the fore. It does have this cold distance to it in a certain way, which could be like, the cosmos. It's just really interesting, but it works really well. So the end part then has this delicious guitar, which rises and pulsates, and it's almost like an emergency light, that's sort of spinning with a siren, and as it's coming towards you, it's approaching, and it seems to, but it's also going upwards as well. I don't know. Anyway, it's like that. And the bass at this point is just ultimate dirty New Order sound, and I absolutely loved it. Really, really, you know, Peter Hook's never sound better, but really, really good. And then, to my absolute disappointment, it finished.
Mm.
And I felt they had just formed another idea within the song, and they could have developed it for another minute or two. I'd been more than happy. I had the feeling that the song could have been more. It was really enjoyable, don't get me wrong. But, that was my initial reaction. But as a wise Godfather of Soul once said, what it is what it is. So this is really good stuff. And it was eminently listenable. I really enjoyed it.
Awesome. I thought you might, because it obviously has bright shades of bands and a genre that I knew that was near and dear to your heart. So I was like, yeah, he's probably going to enjoy this song. So
it's a welcome addition to the catalog of that sound.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, so they are a three-piece post-punk band, and they are based out of Pesaro, Italy, of all places.
Oh, wow.
And yeah.
Wow.
And they formed back in 2008. And the lineup consists of Alessandro Constantini on vocals and guitar, Andrea Giometti on bass and vocals, and Alessandro Ferri on drums. So you've got Andrea Giometti, bass and vocals, and Ferri on drums. In 2009, they self-produced their first two EPs entitled No Title and Soviet Soviet. So they really thought outside the box for these two EPs. One didn't get a name, and the other they just named after themselves.
They must have thought like cat and dog to decide on the names.
So they both of these EPs achieved critical success, so much so that the group was also reviewed by the English site Pitchfork. So yeah, but they even landed on Pitchfork's radar. So they were making waves from their little town in Italy, which is really cool. And in 2011, their first full-length album was released, entitled Summer Jesus. Later that year, they released Nice, which was a compilation of their earlier two EPs. Their sophomore full-length album came out 2 years later in 2013 and is entitled Fate, or Fate, I guess if it's in Italian. This particular track features on that album. So what you saw was and I want to say thumbnail, but I'm also trying not to say thumbprint because you alluded to that. But yeah, that is the artwork for that. Which is interesting, right? Because like this idea of the cosmos having fingerprints on it kind of makes
grand design.
Fate, right? Yeah, exactly. So in 2016, they released the album Endless, and 3 years after came a 3-track release of B-sides entitled Ghost. So that is their discography in a nutshell. David Cantrell of Stereo Embers magazine would write of the album Fate, Soviet Soviet has have a waste no time ethos on the album Fate, or Felte. Picking up resolutely from where 2011's EP compilation Summer Jesus left off. The opening track, Ecstasy, hits the ground sprinting with a post-punk grace. Alessandro Ferri's drums in nimble thunder mode, bass and guitar crashing in a melodic and deft, crashing in all melodic and deft. Singer and guitarist Alessandro Constantini in accentless English, presenting like a teenage Peter Murphy at the song. Yeah, exactly. I figured you'd like this right on. At the mid-song vocal bridge and the guitar race forward to the end, a sort of somber rambunctiousness presides. The band exuding a cool confidence that inspires by its very sound. Indeed, a vaulting hookery anchors all 10 of the tracks on Fate, and it's easy to hear why Soviet Soviet got plucked from the crowded bustle of Bandcamp and given a general label-backed release. It's also the case that for a listener like myself that's hopelessly addicted to the template sound, think that gloomy, delicious Joy Division sound pumped up with a chrome adrenaline, every song on there could have been named Ecstasy. In their review of the album, Close Watch Music wrote of this track, Ecstasy starts off with unrelenting drums from Alessandro Ferri and a driving bass line courtesy of lead vocalist courtesy of lead vocalist Andrea Giametti, that hits the first rumblings of a thundercloud directly overhead. Alessandro Constantini provides a guitar hook that could cut through Jon Snow's wall. So on to the lyrics. And you're right, there isn't a lot, like they aren't clearly delineated verses or chorus. It's just a collection of lyrics, which is kind of interesting.
No,
And
which is fine. Yeah.
yeah, and fits how the song kind of moves anyway. So keep in the darkness and need to die, to see my face and collapse in red. Every day I'm losing time, reading my brain and collapse in red. Keep in the darkness and need to die, to see my face and collapse in red. Every day while I'm coming home, I see you again, collapsing in red. Something wrong, Liberty was hard, but Sunday everything's okay. All systems intact on your chest. So, delving into the world of introspection and despair, the song explores the struggle of mental health. The reoccurring phrase, keep in the darkness, signifies the singer's internal battle, possibly with depression or anxiety. The line, every day I'm losing time reading my brain, suggests a constant overthinking and self-analysis that consumes his time and energy. The mention of red could symbolize danger or crisis and an emotional state that's overwhelming. However, there's a glimmer of hope as Sunday, everything's okay, indicating temporary relief or escape from this inner turmoil. The systems intact on your chest could refer to a loved one providing emotional support during their trying times. Overall, it portrays the roller coaster ride of emotions one undergoes while grappling with mental health issues. So yeah, interesting song. I kind of got those vibes from it myself when I came across this little blurb written about the meaning of the lyrics. There's definitely some shit the singer's going through.
Yeah, it's really a couple of points. So one, if you'd have said to me this band were from Northampton, I wouldn't be surprised. If you said they were from, Frankfurt, I wouldn't have been surprised. But Italy, I was. I don't know why, but I was.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what that reviewer said about the sort of Joy Division lens with this sort of chrome plated, it's right, because the brightness of the guitar, the way it's exactly, that's
Yeah.
a perfect description. That's exactly what it is.
And even all the use of the symbols create that sort of
Yeah,
chromy
yeah,
metallic kind of shimmer to it.
yeah, because and there's especially particularly the first song, the cymbals sound that's it, famously. But yeah, the lyrics as well. I mean, you remember this guy's an Italian writing. I don't know if he's written in Italian translated to English. I think that would be a very clumsy way to do things because translations don't scan. So he's probably writing in English, which is a hell of a lot better than my Italian. But it comes across as a sort of expressive poem. So in a second language, he has done a fantastic job of conveying images.
Yeah,
That's
sure.
that's really good.
And without like overloading the song with lyrics, right? Like
No, I think that's probably the beauty to it. Is the
yes,
fact he hasn't tried.
yeah,
And it's great poetry is sparse in terms of number count, word count, sorry.
yeah. No, I totally agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm really glad this one went over well with you. It's nice to
Yeah.
get we've mentioned this before. It's always nice to get some other countries' representation on the channel, and also just to hear how, like, I use this term loosely, but Western, and what I really mean by that is like English speaking countries that have like sort of paved the way in rock and roll, i.e., the UK and the United States. It's interesting to hear these other countries and the artists therein approach sort of our, and I say that term so loosely and not gatekeepery, but like our country's approach to rock and roll and how they've ingested it and what inspires them in it, and it's just really cool and interesting to me. So I thought this is a much like the song that you alluded to earlier from, oh my God, John, why am I drawing a blank right now? Yes, it's the same kind of experience. So yeah,
Yeah.
I just, one more reason to bring it to the table on top of it just being a really good song, and I'm really glad you liked it. So thanks so much for giving it a listen.
It's interesting they call themselves Soviet though, being from
Yeah.
Italy.
I know.
I don't know, because I'm sure there is a fashion brand probably still around called Soviet. I'm sure, and it has a certain imagery, which is sort of to my mind when you say the word Soviet, it's the sort of 60s and before Russia, rather than proper crappy tanks and dusty flags and things like that rolling into the hills of Afghanistan. Yeah, anyway. So, yeah, no, this was cool.
Cool. I'm glad you liked it. Guys out there in the listening audience, let us know what you thought of Soviet in the song Ecstasy. If it gave you shades of any other bands or subgenres that you've heard in the past or even on this channel or whatever, feel free to drop that down in the comments. We love interacting with you guys. Also, feel free to like, share, and subscribe, especially if you're new here and you haven't yet. We're trying to grow the channel, and we really can't do that without you, and we're always very appreciative of it. And hopefully, John and I will see all y'all and the growing masses on the next episode of the Audiophiles. See you later, guys.